Good evening, everybody. We're holding towards the end of Perek Nun on page 140. And over the last two weeks, over the last two shiurim, we've talked about a new, very lofty level of Avos Hashem, the highest level of Avos Hashem that we've discussed up until this point. And this is an Ava, as the Alter Rebbe says, which is from the left side, from Gevura. It's compared to fire. It's like gold, and it is the Madrega of Levium, as opposed to all the levels of Ava which we discussed until now, which were from the right side, the side of Chesed, compared to water. Silver and is the Madrega of Kehanim. And in short, the Ava which is like water, the Ava from the right side, the Ava which is a Chesed Ava, is an Ava which is a desire to bring Hashem down here into this world. I want to have a connection with Hashem. I want my life to be a spiritual life. I want my life to be one which is full of meaning and purpose and connection to Hashem. That's one type of Ava. But I am at the center of that love. However, the love that we're talking about in this Perek, which is a higher level of Ava, a higher level of love, I am not at the center of the love. It's all about Hashem. I've come to the recognition that all the worlds are nothing, kula kamei kalach shiv, and everything is absolutely worthless and meaningless. And therefore, I want to just be subsumed in Hashem. My whole existence, I don't need to exist. I don't want to exist. I just want to become part of Hashem, because it's like fire as opposed to like water. And the Alter Rebbe elaborates on this Ava, and we spoke about it again in the last two shiurim. And the Alter Rebbe concludes by saying that this type of love cannot be adequately described in writing. It's not something which you can communicate in writing, rather it's something which a person who is an intelligent person, and perhaps more importantly, a person who is a ish nilvav, a heartziger person who has a heart and is emotionally attuned, can begin to relate to this love. And it's true. In other words, even I know that I'm trying to teach this, and it's not as if I can tell you that I totally get it anyways. But all the other madrigas of Ava are more explaining, and this is it's more words, high ideas, and either you grasp it or you don't grasp it, and it's not something which is necessarily something which is rational, but it's a neshama dika thing. It's a person who's in touch with the neshama. Now, as we mentioned on many occasions, one of the biggest chidushim of the Alter Rebbe and Tanya is that Ava and Yira, although this Alter Rebbe said this earlier on, he said this in Perek Mem, the end of Perek Mem. Alter Rebbe says that Ava and Yira, although that they are two of the 613 mitzvahs, but they are substantively different than all the six. Ramosha, next time you come about, if you could bring me please a Mekrais Gedolos Vayikra. It's for a few minutes, for a little later in share. So Ava and Yira are substantively different than all the other 611 mitzvahs in the Torah. Thank you. In that Ava and Yira are not goals in and of themselves. All the other mitzvah, you ask, why do you put on tefillin? The tefillin is not meant to bring you to something. It's not meant to lead you to something. It is the goal. When you do a mitzvah, when you put on tefillin, you're being mekayim the mitzvah, and you're doing the ratzon of Hashem. What is the point of giving tzedakah? It's not meant to lead you. Now, it's possible they do lead you to different things, but that's not the primary idea. The primary idea in every mitzvah is, the mitzvah is not a means towards an end, but it is the end. Yes. If we can just go off a little on the side, on a tangent. There are many even from people who they look at mitzvahs as a means to an end. And the end is, thank you very much. Amen. And the end is being from. The end is having this holistically spiritual lifestyle. And all the mitzvahs together, they put me in that place. I become a from a yid. And by the way, if viewed from that perspective, then a single mitzvah has no value. Just doing a single mitzvah, someone, let's say, who isn't from, but he does a single mitzvah, what's the point of a person putting on tefillin once if afterwards he's going to go and do Averis and eat a ham sandwich? But if we understand that mitzvahs aren't a means to an end, they're not a means to living a certain lifestyle, but the mitzvahs are the end, the mitzvahs are the objective, they are the goal. And if, by the way, consequently, all the mitzvahs together, they lead to that a certain lifestyle beseder, but that's not the goal. The goal is not a lifestyle. The goal is every single mitzvah on its own. So that is true of all the mitzvahs. However, Ava and Yira are the exception to this rule. It's a big chiddush of the Alter Rebbe and Tanya. It says Ava and Yira are not on their own. They're not valuable.
Yeah, the what?
They're not valuable on their own. Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem on their own don't connect you to Hashem, and they don't fulfill the purpose of creation and the purpose of your creation, which is making the world into a dira b'tachtonim. But Ava v'Yira are meant to be the Godfin, the wings, which lift up all the other mitzvahs. When you serve Hashem, when you do mitzvahs, and the mitzvah is motivated by Avas Hashem, and the mitzvah is motivated by Yiras Hashem, in other words, by a love for Hashem, and a reverence for Hashem, and an awe for Hashem, and a fear for Hashem, then the mitzvah has an entirely different value, a much greater value, as discussed at length in the previous program. So Ava and Yira, they're the wings. Their function is to the wings which lift up our mitzvahs higher. But Ava and Yira on their own are nothing. So therefore, in the previous program, all the different levels of Avas Hashem we were talking about, the purpose of every single one of them is to motivate us to learn Torah and to do mitzvahs. As we had in the end of last Perek, that after V'ahavta, at the end of last Perek, V'ahavta Hashem Alikecha, when you reach this level of incredible love for Hashem, B'chol levavcha, B'chol nafshcha, B'chol meidecha, what's it supposed to lead to? Go learn Torah and do mitzvahs. Why? Because if you love Hashem, and you want a connection to Hashem, and you want to have so therefore you go do mitzvahs. So the Ava leads directly to learning Torah and doing mitzvahs.
So it's a means, not an end.
Ava is a means, not an end. The problem is that it would seem that in our Perek, the Ava that we're talking about doesn't lead you to learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. In which case the question becomes, what's the value of this Ava? Yes, it's very lofty, and yes, it's very holy, and yes, it's very amazing that a person is so enraptured and has such a Avat Hashem that like a flame that seeks to rip itself away from the wick and just to go up. The neshama is just desiring to leave this guf and leave Olam Haza and just to go and to become part of Hashem. That's all very nice. But that's not the goal. The goal is Torah and mitzvahs. If this Ahava doesn't lead to Torah and mitzvahs, what's its purpose? And if you think this Ahava can't lead to Torah and mitzvahs, because the whole purpose of this Ahava is that I shouldn't exist. And if I don't exist, I can't learn Torah and do mitzvahs. The levels of Ahava, which are from the right side, from Chesed, the water type Ahava, the silver Ahava, I want to bring Hashem into my life. How do I bring Hashem into my life? Through Torah mitzvahs. So the Ava directly leads to Torah mitzvahs. But the Ava, which we're talking about in our Perek, how does it lead to Torah mitzvahs? That's what we are going to talk about right now. So the Alter Rebbe is going to point out something which it says in Sefer Yetzirah.
Which line?
We are going to start 4 lines from the bottom of page 140. Yeah. By the dot, or as they would say it in English, by the period. So different people learn yeshiva have a different sprach, a different language. There's a dot, and then there's 2 dots. Sometimes in English it's known as a colon, but if you go to yeshiva, no one knows what a colon is. It's 2 dots.
2 dots.
Yeah. Vihine, says the Alter Rebbe. Vihine seder avoida. The ability to have an avoida be'esek ha'Torah v'mitzvahs and studying Torah, doing mitzvahs, hanemsheches be'mechines ava azazu, which results from this tremendous, mighty, powerful love which we just spoke about, which l'chera How does that happen? How does this love lead to Torah mitzvahs? He bebechinis shuv levad. This is because of the shuv, and obviously we'll explain what that is in a moment. K'meshekasuv b'sefer Yitzira, as it says in Sefer Yitzira, v'imiratz libcha shuv le'echad. That if your heart runs, return to echad.
Echad means the Rebbeinu Shem.
Now, for anyone who's familiar with the Sefer Yitzira, which was written by Adam Arishan, I believe, according to the Messiah. So Sefer Yitzira is a Sefer of Kabbalah, but it is written very cryptically. It's written in a very poetic fashion. Many, many different svarim explaining the Sefer Yitzira. But this is based on a pasuk. A pasuk, I believe in Yecheskel, where when he's describing the Merkava, we know Yecheskel had a vision of the Merkava, and when he's describing the Merkava, and he's talking about the Malachim who are called Chayes, a certain level, Madrega of Malachim, a certain category of Malachim, they're known as Chayes. As we learned earlier in Tanya and Perek Lametes, they're called Chayes because they're instinctive and impulsive. Now, their instincts and impulses are Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, but they're not, as opposed to other Malachim who are more cerebral. These are more emotional Malachim, so that's why they're called Chayes. And the pasuk says about the Chayes, V'ha-Chayes Ratzoi Vashoiv, which literally means that the Chayes are Ratzoi, they're running, they're running, Vishoiv, and they're turning back. In other words, they're pacing to and fro. They're not stationary. They're not standing in one place. And this idea of Ratzei Vishoiv is a large, was developed in Chassidus and has become a very important idea. Based on this Sefer Yitzira. The Sefer Yitzira is obviously borrowing somewhat the terminology of Yecheskel Ratzei Vishoiv. And the Sefer Yitzira says like this: V'imiratz libcha, if your heart is racing, shuv le'echad, return to echad. What does that mean? Pirush. That means v'imiratz libcha, if your heart is racing. Hitshukas hanefesh. This is a reference to the desire of the neshama, Shebelev, which expresses itself in the heart, B'chol la'imani, in the right side of the heart, which is where the nefesh alikis is. Kisha misgaberes, when the yearning and the desire of the neshama, when it becomes overpowering, umislaheves, umislahetas, and it's blazing and burning, b'ma'oid mi'oid, very, very much. Ad kleis hanefesh mamish, to the point literally, the person just wants to, the neshama just wants to rip itself out of this olam haza, this lowly physical material world, lishtapech al cheik aviha, and to pour itself in the bosom of its Father, of Hashem, Chaye HaChayim Baruch Hu, the source of all life, blessed be He. V'latzes, and this is the desire of the neshama, to leave mimasara, to leave its captivity, escape its captivity, beguf hagufni v'gashmi, in the corporal, material, physical body, l'dafka b'yizbarach, to cleave to Hashem. So imratz libcha, when your heart is racing, your neshama is inspired, and this whole world becomes meaningless to you, and all the neshama wants is to go up, leave this world and connect to Hashem. At that point, you have to do shuv le'echad, you have to return le'echad. What does echad mean? What does it mean shuv le'echad?
Hashem.
So it would seem, what does that mean? Return to Hashem? Your heart is racing to Hashem, return to Hashem? So the Chassidus is explained that the word echad, when we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, there's something unusual over here, which is we say Hashem is echad, Hashem is one, when seemingly it would have been more appropriate to say Hashem Yachid. Echad means He is one. What does one imply?
There may be somebody else.
There could be another one. There's one, there's two, there's three, there's four. Yachid means the only one. What do we say in Adon Elam?
The singular.
V'hu echad ve'ein sheni. There's nothing else, which means Yachid. Echad Yachid Miyuchad, right? Hashem is Yachid.
That's it.
Yachid is a much greater praise than Echad. Yachid means that Hashem is the only thing.
Nobody else.
And that's it there is. Ein areich lecha ve'ein zulasecha. There's nothing other than you. Efes b'ltecha, right? Efes b'ltecha. Nothing other than Hashem. Isn't that the greatest recognition? Not only that, Hashem echad, there's one Hashem. There is no other Hashem. Hashem Yachid. There's nothing more than Hashem. Ein et movadoi, which is the pasuk. Ein oid, nothing else, right? V'yadaita yom v'shavis alavecha, ki Hashem hu elikim b'shamayim yimal v'la'aretz mitachas, ein oid. There's nothing other than Hashem. So why do we say Hashem Echad instead of saying Hashem Yachid? So what does Echad mean, Taka? What's the kavana we're supposed to have when we say Echad? Brought down in Shulchan Aruch, I believe it's from the Rasag. What is the kavana in Echad? Hapi Allah. What are you supposed to have in mind when you say Echad? So it's brought down. The Aleph represents Hashem. Hashem, who is one, who is the Aluf Shel Olam, the master of the world. The Ches represents the one earth and the seven heavens. And the Daled represents the four directions of the world. And when we're saying Echad, we're supposed to have in mind that Hashem is the king over the four corners, the four directions of the four directions, and up and down, the earth and the seven heavens. The world was created because Hashem wanted Echad, not Yachid. Yachid means that Hashem exists and nothing else exists other than Him. When was there Yachid? Before the world was created. Then there was Yachid. Then there was talking nothing else. And then Hashem created a world. Now in truth, even after Hashem created the world, He's still Yachid. That's the truth. But not in our perception. Not in the perception of the world. It looks like there's a lot of other things. What other things are there? Look around in the four directions. Look down, heaven, earth. Look at all these things, all these creations, all these things that are other than Hashem. Why did Hashem put us down here in the world? To make Echad. That the world itself should come to the realization that even though there's the Ches and there's the Dalet, but really all of it is only part of the Achdus, the unity of Hashem, and everything is really batal and nullified to the Aleph which comes before the Ches and before the Dalet. To put it in somewhat different words, why did Hashem create the world? Because it's no kunst to be Yachid. It's no kunst, it's not a trick to be the only one when there's nothing else. The trick is to create a multitude, a multiplicity in everything there is in the world, and all the billions and billions and billions of different and trillions of elements and everything there is, and then B'nai Yisrael, through our Avodah, we are Megala, that all these things that seem to be so different one from another, and all the multiplicity in creation, what is it actually? It's all part of Achdus Hashem, it's all part of the Echad. All part of the Echad. How do we accomplish this? Through Torah mitzvahs. Every time we learn Torah, and even more so, every time we do mitzvahs, we are taking another element of the world and another element of the world, and ourselves, our nefesh habahamis, and everything with which we're doing the mitzvahs, and as we mentioned many times, the whole support system, and we're revealing within everything the Achdus within everything, the Achdus in creation, the unity in creation. We're revealing how everything in the world is merely there just to be able to serve Hashem. So if Imratz Libcha says the Sefer Yitzirah, now we can understand what the Sefer Yitzirah is saying. Imratz Libcha, your heart is racing with a tremendous love for Hashem. The love which we spoke about in this Perek. Your neshama wants to rip itself out and become one with Hashem. What's your neshama really looking for? It's looking for Yachid. Think about that for a moment. It's sick of the whole world. It's sick of all the multiplicity in the world and all the things, all the physical and the material and everything. It wants only Hashem. Says the Sefer Yitzirah, Shuv la'achad. No. You forgot. Why? You forgot you were created in order to be able to do echad. You were created in order to bring the Achdus of Hashem into this world. The purpose of your creation is not that your neshama should rip itself from your body and go to reconnect to Hashem. No, shuv le'echad, inside. Azai then, at this point when your heart and your neshama is filled with this desire, klois hanefesh, zois yoshev elibay, this is what you should take to heart. Maimer Azal, you should take to heart that which our Chazal tell us, our sages tell us, in Pirkei Avos, ki al karcha chatachai.
Guess you will.
It says in Pirkei Avos, right? Al karcha chatachai, al karcha chatames. We live not by our own choice, but this is because Hashem wanted this of us, and He commanded us. We have to live. Even if your neshama wants to go and to rip itself away and connect to Hashem, no. Your job is over here. Al karcha chatachai beguf hazan. Against your wish, whether you like it or not, your job is to be alive. In the guf. And in a deeper sense, lahach yoisoi. Al karcha chatachai means whether or not you like it, your job is chai. Your job is to bring the chayis of Hashem here into the world, to make this world alive and vibrant with holiness, with elikus, with kedusha. Lahamshich chayim el yoinim, to draw down supernal life, mechaya chayim baruch hu, from the source of our life, lemata. The job is to bring it down here into echad. Ayidei teiras chayim, al karcha chatachai. It is your job to be alive and to make the world alive. How do we make the world alive? Through teiras chayim, the Torah which gives life. Liyes dira betachtoinim, and we have to make this world to be a dira betachtoinim. La'achdusa yisbara, for the echad, shuv la'echad. Bebechinas gilui, that it should be in a revealed way, because the truth is, as mentioned, the truth is that it is Yachid. The truth is that Hashem is everything. But our job in this world is to reveal that with unity in the world, Commission is barely ill, as explained earlier. So the Alter Rebbe is saying over here is, Alter Rebbe is saying that generally speaking, when we have an Ava to Hashem, the Ava leads to Torah mitzvahs. It's a natural progression. This Ava that we're talking about in the Perek doesn't naturally lead to Torah mitzvahs. It's, you might want to say, the boomerang effect. This Ava, when you reach the height of this Ava, that's when you have to stop yourself and say, as much as this is what I want, but what does Hashem want of me? I would prefer to go and to just become part of the Eibishter, the Neshama to leave the body. But there's this like reverse reaction. How would you call it? This opposite reaction. When you reach that plateau, when you reach that high level of ratzui, suddenly at this point the shuv kicks in and you say, no. But that's not the kavanah. The kavanah isn't my neshama shall leave. My neshama kavah. The kavanah Hashem wants me down over here is to reveal His achdus, the echad, here in this world. It says in Zohar, which we say every Friday night, Lemeheve echad be'echad. What does it mean? That the one should meet the one. The unity, the two unities should unite. Which means, Pirush, Shahayichud hanelam, our job over here in this world is that the hidden unity of Hashem, as it is in the higher worlds, Bechinas Alma Deskali, should be revealed in this world. Echad be'echad, the echad which we have, the echad which exists in the higher world, in the world of Atzilus, or even higher, that echad should be revealed over here in this world. And this is what we say, this is what we say on Friday night, L'kras Kala. Why are Yidden called the Kala? Doidi is Hashem. We say L'chad Doidi. Doidi is the beloved. We say, come beloved, L'kras Kala, towards the Kala. The beloved is Hashem, and the Kala is Klal Yisrael. Why are we called a Kala? The word Kala is related to something from this Perek. Which word? Klois HaNefesh. Why is it? Why is it? It's not related to Chala. Kala is related to Klois HaNefesh. We Yidden are called Kala because our neshama has this tremendous desire. It's, as David says, Kol Sanafshi, right? Kol San, we had it earlier in the Perek. Nichsef Avegam, Kol Sanafshi. My heart yearns and it's expiring for Hashem. So when you have the Kala, when you have the Yidden that are on that level of Ratzui, what do we have to do? L'chadoidi. We have to bring the beloved Hashem down here into this world. When you're feeling the Ratzui, when you're feeling like a Kala to Hashem, what's your job?
Bring him down.
L'chadoidi. L'chadoidi, we say, my beloved, please come with me. You're leading the beloved. That, the result of being a Kala always has to be l'chadoidi, bringing Hashem down into the world. And how was that done? Through Torah and mitzvahs. With this we understand that which Chazal tell us in Pirkei Avos, al karcha chatachai, val karcha v'chulu. Says that against your will you live, and against your will you die. Which seems to be nonsensical. What do you want? You say against your will you're alive, which means, by definition, that you prefer not to be alive. In which case, it's not al karcha chatames. Then you should be happy to die. If you say al karcha chatames, that against your will you die, means you want to live. So if you want to live, then what does it mean al karcha chatachai, that against your will you live? They seem to be two contradictory statements. How do we reconcile? What is a person supposed to want? Al-Mishnah is explained elsewhere at length the meaning of this Mishnah. It means al karcha chatachai be'ezras chayachayim baruch. I'll explain what that means in a moment. But first, let's what is explained elsewhere in this Mishnah. That when you're in a state of ratzui, when your heart is racing and you're feeling love for Hashem, and you have no desire, interest in this world, and you want to just lock yourself up in a room and meditate and learn Torah and you're to the point even perhaps that your soul just wants to rip away from his body. What do we tell you? Al karcha chatachai. No. Go back into the world. Go back and bring Hashem into the world. Go do mitzvahs. Go learn Torah. Go interact with the world. And then when you go into the world, what do we tell you? When you're in a state of shuv, what do we tell you? Al karcha chatachai. Al karcha chatachai. In other words, al karcha chatames. Right, I'm sorry, yeah. Right, so again, when you're in a state of ratzi, we say al karcha chatachai.
Go back.
And when you're backing, we say no, al karcha chatames. You have to enter once again a state of ratzi. Because the entire life is a cycle of ratzi and shuv. Our entire life is a cycle of desire, fire and then water, fire and then water. First we have this tremendous desire for Hashem, and then we pour water on the fire, and we say, as much as I want, no, but what's my job? Shuv. I have to go back and I have to do what Hashem wants, and I have to make a dir b'tachtonim. But then the cycle has to begin again, and then once again you have to awaken your love for Hashem, and have a ratzui. So again, it's a cycle of al karcha chatachai, al karcha chatames, al karcha chatachai. And why is that? Because if I'm living in this world and I don't have this desire for Hashem, I don't have this tremendous avas Hashem and koleisa nefesh, then I'm enjoying the world and I get lost in the world, and then I can't make the world into dir b'tachtonim. This is the interesting, the irony of it. How do I make a dir b'tachtonim with the energy that I get from the ratzui? The energy that I get from when my heart is racing with love for Hashem, that gives me the energy to go back into the world and to go and to do Torah mitzvahs, even though that when I'm feeling ratzui, I'm not interested in that. But I reach this level of love for Hashem and say, no, go into the world. And then you go into the world and you start doing Torah mitzvahs. But if you're gonna lose that ratzui, if you're gonna stay in the state of shuv in the world, then you'll become part of the world. You won't be able to elevate the world and make it holy. So we need again a ratzui, and then again a shuv, and again a ratzui, and the entire life is one big cycle of ratzui v'shuv. And this is be'ezras chayachayim baruch. The ability to be able to go on this roller coaster is with the help of Hashem. If not for the help of Hashem, we'd either get lost in the ratzui, we'd get lost in the shuv. But Hashem gives us the koyach to be able to engage in this roller coaster. So this over here, with this we finish Perek Nun. And that, as we see here, the whole Perek Nun, the first part of Perek Nun is about ratzui, this desire for Hashem that we have to feel. And then, but that always has to lead to Hashuv. Whenever you feel this desire, whenever you feel like He's cited us, whenever you feel like He's lahavos, whenever you feel an awakening and an inspiration, it always has to lead to the Shuv, realizing as much as my inspiration, I want to just sit and sing Nigunim and strum my guitar on the Himalayas and just no, Shuv, go do a mitzvah.
I have a question about Yecheskel by the Merkava. It said Ratzui V'Shuv. If you run to do something, you not succeed, you go back. Why say Ratzui and continue there? Why you have to come back if you don't do what Hashem wants? Because
the whole Seder Yisrael, all the Malachim are always in a constant state of desire, and they're going to do what Hashem wants. Desire, and they're going to do what Hashem wants. It's the whole, everything, even I believe even light is always coming and going, light waves. It's the way Hashem created the world. And that in holiness and spirituality, we're constantly ratzui, the heart's racing, but then shuv, going back to what we have to do. Now, what's amazing is that we very often we find that when we're learning about Perek Tanya, we find the connection to the parsha of the week. This week there's Tzai, Parshas Shmini, but it's also Parshas Para. And what's amazing is that if you want to find where in Chassidus does it talk about Ratzui V'Shuv, the answer is Parshas Shmini and Parshas Para. The underlying theme, the two main places in the Torah where this idea is expressed, and talk about the tremendous Hashgacha Pratis that it's mamish this week. In Parshas Shmini we have very famously, we have the story of the passing of Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu.
Got too close. Got burnt.
What would that be called? They got too close? What would that be called in
Rotzi.
Ratzi? They got lost in
They
Ratzi.
got burnt. That's it.
They got lost in
Got
Ratzi.
too close to the
Yeah.
punishment. They got to be done.
In other words, they learned the first half of Perek Nun, and they didn't learn the second part, which we're talking about right now. And it's spoken about at length in Chassidus that why was it? Why did they die? So if you look, it's brought down many different reasons. The Medrash says one reason is because they went into Kodesh HaKodashim. Nichnasu lefnai lefnim. Another reason is brought down is that the reason why they died is because they were mechusrei begadim. They didn't have the bigdei kuna, proper begadim. Another that's brought down. Another reason that's brought down is that they weren't married. Another reason that's brought down, they didn't have children. Well, kind of one leads to the other, usually.
Not married, they have children.
Right. But that's two mitzvahs they didn't have. They didn't do the mitzvah of getting married. They did the mitzvah of having children. So these are four reasons that are brought down in the various midrashim as to why. Then obviously there's also the idea of shui ayin, that they were drunk. And all these reasons, yes.
In Rashi, the fifth reason.
The Heiru halacha b'Moshe Rabban, the what?
They're being mechaper because of Aaron being Cheta Egel.
Right. But that's, in other words, that's not a deficiency in them. That's another reason. If you look at the Zohar Chaim that talks about the Zohar Chaim says that children don't get punished for their father's averis. But the Zohar Chaim explains that what that means is that if not for that, Aaron's chus would have protected them. So because they lost Aaron's chus, they died for their averis. That's the way the Zohar Chaim understands it. But the obvious question becomes, is we know that it says that after they passed away, so Moshe turns to his brother Aaron and says, he says, I always knew Nadav and Avihu were great. But what I didn't realize was that they were greater than both me and you put together. Because I knew that the Mishkan would be Niskadesh, would be sanctified. I knew the Mishkan would be sanctified through the passing of tzaddikim, and I thought it would be either me or you. And now that I see you as them, I realize they're greater than both me and you. So if Nadav and Avihu were so great, then why were they entering the Kodesh HaKodashim without clothing? Why didn't they get married? Why didn't they have children? Why were they drunk? All these things we need to understand. And moreover, what do we say? Bekrevei HaKadosh, that the base of Moshe told Aaron, he says, Aaron Achi, Yodeya Hayisi Ainu Sheyiskadesh Habayis Bim Yudav Shal Makib, that in order for the Mishkan to have the Kedusha, it would require something of this sort. And the question becomes,
Require what sort, you told me?
like an event of this sort. And the question was, how does this bring Kedusha to the Mishkan? Sheyiskadesh Habayis, he says, Bim Yudav Shal Makim. That somehow or other this is going to cause that the Mishkan shall be. I knew that in order for the Mishkan to become a holy place, this wasn't the first day of the Mishkan, in order for it to be in Skadish.
That's a die.
But not only that they died, But they died because of a bunch of mistakes that they made. How is people dying because of a bunch of mistakes that they made? How does that make that the Mishkan should be holy? And how were they making the mistakes if they were so holy? So the Rebbe explains, based on the very famous Eir HaChaim, now the Eir HaChaim is in the beginning of Parshas Achri Mos, where the pasuk says, Achri Mos shnei bnei Aaron b'karvasam lefnei Hashem vayimusu. So there's a very famous Eir HaChaim over there. So Eir HaChaim says like this. Dibur Hashem leMoshe derech misasan. Hashem was telling Moshe about the way they passed away. Not of an aviu. Shahisa al zeh haderech. You want to know how it happened? It was bikarvasam lefnei Hashem. They passed away because they came close to Hashem. Pirush meaning sheniskaru lefnei Eir HaElyon. They approached the Eir HaElyon, the supernal Eir, b'chibas hakodesh, with a tremendous love for that which is holy. Ubazeh mesu, and this is how they died. V'hu soid haneshika, sheba mesim tzadikim. Whenever we talk about tzadikim passing away with neshika, this is, they passed away with neshika. V'hine him shavim l'misas kol tzadikim. In this way, they're the same as all tzadikim. They died with neshika. Ella shahefreshu. The difference is, Tzadikim, but by all tzadikim, haneshika miskareves lahem. Hashem approaches them. Ve'elu, but not of an aviyu them. These people, heim niskarvula. They went and they approached Hashem bekarvasam el Hashem. Usually, when it comes the time for a big tzaddik to pass away, so then Hashem comes down to them. There's this tremendous gilui lakus, and that kisses the neshama. It's the most painless death possible. The neshama just leaves the body and is embraced and subsumed by Hashem. Not of an aviyu, they themselves, they approached Hashem, not the other way around. And the pasuk says, "B'karvasam lefnei Hashem, v'imri vayimusu." It says, when they became close to Hashem, vayimusu. Remez hakosov. The pasuk is alluding haflas chibas tzadikim, the tremendous love that these tzadikim had for Hashem. Shagam shehu margishim b'misasam. They realized, they felt they're about to die. Loinimnu, they did not stop. Mekiruv, from getting close. And listen to this. How many words Eir HaChaim uses? Ledeveikus, neimus, arevus, yedidus, chavivus, chashikus, mesikus. They did not stop them. Only. By the way, for those of you who study the Eir HaChaim, there's a reason why it's called the Eir HaChaim HaKadosh. In other words, you read this and you realize he himself felt the same thing. They could not stop themselves from getting close to the sweetness and the pleasantness and the beauty and the preciousness, the yearning. He uses adjective after adjective, ad kileis nafsheisa mahem, until the Shabbos Pasha left. V'havein, understand this. And you know what's interesting is, if you remember, we learned in Perek Nun, the Alter Rebbe says that this is something I can't write. The Eir HaChaim says the same thing. U'bechina this idea, ein makir echusa. No one really gets its quality. V'mushlalas hakara, something which we don't really have an understanding in. Lo mipi min ha'enushi, no person can explain it. V'lo mipi ksave, no person can write it. Like really, what similar to what Alter Rebbe is saying. So we have over here. Now that what the Bnei Aaron experienced was a ratzei without a shuv. That's what they experienced. That's what it means. Nichnasu lefnai lefnim. They entered the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Their heart, they were just, they completely, they went into Kodesh HaKadoshim. They approached Hashem without clothing.
That was different.
What does the out clothing mean? What is clothing as a reference? Clothing is a reference to mitzvahs, meaning they shed their clothing. They shed the mitzvahs. They weren't further interested in having to deal with this world and learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. They went in without the appropriate clothing. They were not married, they didn't have children. This all represents a complete separation from Olam Haza, in which they expressed no interest at all, and instead they were shesuyis yayin, they were drunk on the secrets of Torah. The word yayin is gematria 70, the same gematria as soid. They were drunk on the secrets of Torah, and all they wanted was to connect to Hashem, and they got closer and closer and closer, shuv, ratzi, without any shuv, until they experienced a complete klei sanafesh. And this tremendous holiness, which was even holier than Moshe and Aaron, this is what brought the Kedusha into the Beis HaMikdash. This fiery love for Hashem was what brought the Kedusha into the Beis HaMikdash. The Rebbe even explains, it says, they had a fire. Obviously the fire they had was the fire, the love they had. Asher leitziva oisam. It's not what Hashem didn't command us this. This goes beyond command. They felt this, it was at the very depths of their neshama, what they felt this love for Hashem. Now if you recall, 2 weeks ago, we talked about, or 3 weeks ago, we talked about the difference between Ketores and Karbanos, remember? How Ketores represents this absolute connection and dveikus to Hashem, even more so than Karbanos. What did they do? They had Ketores. When they went to the Beis HaMikdash, Ketores, because Ketores represents the Bechad Katira is Katarna, this absolute connection to Hashem. Now, we find this elsewhere in history also. We find this elsewhere. The Gemara tells us in Masechtas Chagiga that Arba'a Nichnasu Lapardis. There were 4 people who entered the deepest secrets of the Torah. And we know it says that Ben Azai, he died. What is Ben Azai known for?
He didn't get married.
He didn't get married. He didn't have children.
Nafshei choshka.
Nafshei choshka b'Torah. Talk about the parallels. The parallels. What?
There's the whole thing in Seita about how long it takes to...
Satan, the Rashi, right. In other words, there's a day that he was married, that he got married to the daughter of Rabbi Akiva, but divorced her right away. But Al Kapanim, the point remains. He said, either he never got married, or he got married and got divorced immediately. And he said, "Ma esev enafshi chashka b'Torah." What can I do? I just want to learn Torah. I want to study Torah. I don't. This is not for me. He says the world will be able to yiskayim idea cherim. The world will be able to repopulate through other people. Ben Zoma also never got married. Ben Zoma also, he didn't die, but he became mentally destabilized by this experience of entering the Pardes. We know what happened to Acher. And then Rabbi Akiva nichnas b'shalom v'yatsa b'shalom. Rabbi Akiva, he entered and he left b'shalom. Why does it say nichnas b'shalom v'yatsa b'shalom? It should say yatsa b'shalom. What do you mean nichnas b'shalom v'yatsa b'shalom? He entered in peace. He was able to depart in peace. So the Rebbe explains the two are connected. Ben Azai and Ben Zoima, when they entered, they did not enter b'shalom. They entered with the intention of having only Ratzui. And that's why they got lost in it. Rabbi Akiva, because to him was all about doing what Hashem's will. He realized, Hashem wants me to have Ratzui, Hashem wants me to have Shuv. He entered with the right frame of mind, knowing that when I reach a certain level, I have to come back down. And that's why, because Nichnas b'shalom, because when he entered, originally, when he entered the state of Ratzui, it was with proper intentions, therefore also, it was Yatsa b'shalom. Now what's interesting is that this whole story about Achrei Moshe Shnei Bnei Aaron, B'karvatzam al Hashem v'yamusu, is the introduction to the whole parsha about Yom Kippur. And the relevance is very obvious, because what's the one time a year when we get lost, when in Klal Yisrael, we go to the shul and we get lost in Ratzui, we get lost in this desire for Hashem, it's Yom Kippur. So before we enter Yom Kippur, so you have to know that as you're entering this Ratzui of Yom Kippur, you have to know that there has to be the Shuv. And as the Rebbe points out, it says, Va'al yavai b'chol eis al HaKodesh. So literally, Va'al yavai b'chol eis al HaKodesh means you don't enter at any time into the Kodesh HaKodashim. And the Rebbe says, Va'al, when you become al, when you become nothing, when you're batal to Hashem, then yavai b'chol eis al HaKodesh. Then you can enter at any time. Meaning that when you understand what the kavanah is, you're not going to get lost in the Kodesh HaKodashim, because since you're batal to Hashem, you know that your job is Torah mitzvahs to have impact in the world. So va'al, when you're completely batal to the Ratzon Hashem, then yavai b'chol eis, then you can enter the Kodesh HaKodashim, then you can experience the Ratzui safely. And we find this.
I had a question.
Yeah.
I said before that Moshe Rabbeinu told Aaron that somebody going to die now by the Mishkan, and they are holier than us, Nadav and Avihu, and they die. But it said about Moshe, he was the only one that saw Hashem panim ul panim. Nobody was in this madriga. So I think he's holiest than that.
Right. listen, there's these are nuanced things. That means that to a certain extent, in a certain area, whether, when it came, to, for example, to nevuah, or when it came to humility, anava, Moshe was the greatest. It doesn't mean that there couldn't be someone who was greater than Moshe in another aspect. And in the aspect of Dveikus and Hashem, apparently Nadav and Avihu had some sort of advantage over Moshe. That's why life is sophisticated and complex. It's not like, either you're higher, you're lower. It could be higher in one way, it could be lower in another way. Yes.
Who was the fourth person?
Acher, and that caused him to become a Kitzitz Binatiyas. He became a heretic because of the experience. It blew his mind. Well, we find about the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, who's this, if there's anyone who's going to experience this Ratzui, it's the Kohen Gadol going into the Kodesh HaKodashim on Yom Kippur with Keteres. Right? Keep in mind, the Kohen Gadol brings the Keteres into the. So what do we find about the Kohen Gadol? Very interesting. V'chiper ba'adai uva'ad beisa. He has to v'chaper himself, ba'ad beisa and his wife, and the halacha is that he has to be married. The Kohen Gadol must be married. Talk about the contrast to Nadav and Avihu and Ben Azai. That they got, Nadav and Avihu went into the Kodesh HaKodashim and they got lost there. The Kohen Gadol never can lose his connection to Beisai, Elam Haza, the physical world, his wife. And in fact, we know we say it also in the Davening Yom Kippur. The Yom Tov is when he left. The Yom Tov is the Shuv. In other words, as great as the Ratzui is, but when he's Shuv, when he goes back home, and when you use that inspiration of Yom Kippur, of entering the Kodesh HaKodashim, which in a small degree we all do that, on Yom Kippur. And when you go home b'shalom, b'tzeisei b'shalom and HaKodesh, like Rabbi Akiva, who was nichnas b'shalom and yatsa b'shalom, that is the Emes Yom Tov. So we see in Parsha Shmini the idea of Pashat, an example of Ratzui, but that was Ratzui with Atruf. For Nadav and Avihu it was fine. For them it was fine. But after the experience of Nadav and Avihu, Hashem says, Genug, that's it. The Mishkan's holy, no more. That's not the Avodah anymore.
But it seems like it was still bad, right? It was still there.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
It wasn't an Aver. For them, in other words, there was no command yet at that time not to do it. Which means that the Eibishter felt at that time it was appropriate, it was good. This was what brought the Kedusha into the Beis HaMikdash, into the Mishkan, but that's not the Avodah for Klal Yisrael. Now,
Well, what's not the Avodah?
sorry?
What? That brought Kedusha to the Mishkan. That after that, what's not the Avodah for Klal Yisrael?
To have Ratzi without Shuv. To have Ratzi without Shuv is not desirable. We have to have Ratzi, Al-Karch, we have to have the Al-Karch HaChatachai, which is Ratzi, but we also have to have afterwards the Shuv, which is Al-Karch HaChatamis. We say the story about the Alter Rebbe, that the Alter Rebbe was once, he was learning, I think I told you this in the past, that when the Alter Rebbe arrived in Mezrich, the Baal Tanya, he arrived in Mezrich, so he learned with Rabbi Avram the Malach, who was the son of the Bezitcher Magid. And the deal was that he taught Rabbi Avram the Magid Nigla, Gemara, and Rabbi Avram taught him Chassidus. Now, I'm sure Rabbi Avram also knew how to learn Gemara, and I'm sure the Alter Rebbe also knew Chassidus, but when they arrived, the Alter Rebbe was somewhat of a novice in Chassidus, and the Alter Rebbe was a goy in Olam in Gemara, and so they had this chavrusa. And as the story goes, the Alter Rebbe would move the clock back. When it was time for learning Chassidus, he would move the hands of the Rebbe Avram was a malach. He didn't notice what's going on even, so he'd move the hand back so he'd steal time. He'd get extra time for learning Chassidus. But the story is told by our Rebbeim that it once happened that it was after a session of learning Chassidus together, and Rebbe Avram the malach sees the Alter Rebbe. Right afterwards, goes and he starts eating a bagel with butter. A bagel with putter, a bagel with butter. And he's like, what's that all about? After he said, Alter Rebbe said that I was feeling after this study, I was feeling that my neshama is about to leave, and I had to ground it. And by sitting and by biting into the bagel and butter, I was able to ground it. It's also known that the Rabbeim, when they would say a Maimer Chassidus, when they say a Chassidic discourse, the Rebbe he would forbring for many hours. But part of it was a mimer, saying a Chassidic discourse. They would always wrap a handkerchief around their hands and hold the handkerchief. The Rebbe had a handkerchief, and before he started saying a Maimer, also the other Rebbeim, they'd wrap it around their hands and hold on to it. Now we don't know the reason why, but some Chassidim have suggested a similar idea that to keep them anchored in this world, because when saying such deep inyanim, Pasha keeps them anchored in this world. There's also there's somewhat of a famous sikha which the Rebbe spoke. There's a famous story in the Gemara, Masechtas Megillah, where it talks about a Purim Suda. The Rabbi once invited Reb Zera to a Purim Suda, and he shachted him, and he shachted Reb Zera by the Purim Suda. And the next day, he davened and he brought him back to life. And the next year, he invited him again, and the Reb Zera said,
That's for me.
it's not good for the heart to die every year. He says, I don't know. He says, I don't know if this time the miracle will happen. And it's a very strange story. I mean, even to say very strange would be the understatement of the century. B'chal, we know that the holy people, when they take some wine and they become madlayada, so nichnas yayin yasasoid, what comes out when a holy person takes l'chaim? What comes out? Beauty, Torah, the deepest parts of Torah. And Rahman al-Islam, to think that a Tana would go and he would shecht another way, it's incomprehensible. And this is a Tana who was quoted hundreds, if not thousands of times in the Gemara, a holy person. What does that mean? So those people who learn it in a metaphorical sense, but the Rebbe says no, it means literally he killed him. But what does it mean that he killed him? The Rebbe even notes that the name Rabbah means great. The name Zeira means small, which means that Rabbah, in terms of level of neshama and level of knowledge of the Soidus HaTorah, was much greater than Reb Zeira. They came together, important, and they took a little l'chaim, and Rabbah started pouring such tremendous secrets of Torah on Reb Zeira that Reb Zeira experienced taka klois hanefesh, and he died. If you look in the Rashi says v'shachat ein v'shachat elo umashach. V'shachat means to pull. He pulled him up to higher level, right? So v'shachta, he pulled him to higher level, and Reb Zeira couldn't take it. It was too much for him. He couldn't handle it, and he literally died from it. And to the point that he had to be mechayim esim the next day. But this idea, klois hanefesh, is for tzaddikim, it's a reality. It's a reality that when the neshama reaches a certain point, it's literally in danger of leaving the body. Now, before we finish, and there's some more things that will continue Mitzvah Shem on the topic of Ratzi V'Shev a little next week, before we start Perek Nun Aleph. But I said also this is connected to the idea of Parah Aduma. So the Rebbe explains in the Likutei Torah and Parshas Chukas, the Rebbe explains that it says Zois Chukas HaTorah, that for some reason the Parah Aduma is considered the chayk of the whole Torah. So the Rebbe says the reason why the whole Torah is like Parah Aduma represents the entire Torah, the mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs of the Torah, is because Parah Aduma has within it, it includes within it both Ratzui and Shuv. How's that? On the one hand, we take the Parah, and what do? We burn it in fire. Ratzui. It's the idea of Ratzui. And that's done. We burn it, if you look in halacha, how careful and meticulous you have to be, that to the last drop of the bones and the skin and even the wood and it is burnt, and then they take it afterwards and they crush it to make sure that every last drop is turned into ash. What do you take then with this fire? What do you do with the fire? What do you do with this? With the ashes?
You throw it out.
No. You have to put it into Mayim Chayim. Mayim. What does Mayim represent? Shuv. If fire is the idea of Ratzui, so water is the idea of Shuv. Just like we have the idea of water comes down.
Yeah.
So the Rebbe says the whole Torah mitzvah is this idea of Ratzui v'Shuv. Fire and water. And we experience this on a regular basis. Where do we find fire? Karbanis. Eish Tami Tukat al Mizbeach L'Sichba. What is the karbanis in our day? Davening. Because during davening, we're supposed to try to experience a feeling of Ratzi for Hashem, a desire for Hashem. And then the rest of the day, after davening, we go out into the world and we learn Torah, we do mitzvahs, and that's the shuv. So the entire system of Yiddishkeit is this constant cycle of Ratzi V'Shuv, this constant cycle of I have this tremendous love and desire and yearning for Hashem, and then I take that and say, okay, but what do I do? What does Hashem want me to do right now? The kavanah is shuv, is to go and to make this world shuv la'echad, is to make the world a place where the achdus of Hashem is revealed. And it's fascinating. The Rebbe points out that we take the ashes, we take the water, the ashes and water of the parah aduma, and we spray it on a person who's tameh, the worst type of tumah, tumas meis, avi avois tumah, right? And the person becomes pure. And you think into what that means. That the worst tumah that there is death. Death means complete spiritual death. Life, as we said a million times just now in Tanya. Where's life? Life is from Hashem. So what does tumas meis represent? What does the tumah of a meis represent? Complete detachment from life, from Hashem. So you have a person on a metaphoric level, on an allegorical level, on a figurative level, tumas meis represents complete detachment from Hashem, who is the makar of chayis. And you might think that a person who's on that level has no shaykhis to Ratzi, has no connection. Ratzi is so high and so lofty. No, we take it on that person who seemingly is on the lowest level, spray him with a little Ratzi, spray him with a little shuv, pull him into the shul, get him to daven, get him to experience a little avos Hashem, let him go learn a little Torah and do mitzvahs, the Ratzi and the shuv, and what do you have? The person becomes tired. And what's the Shabbos that follows Parshas Parah? Parshas Achidush. You have a new person. Achidush is alachem. The idea of chidush. Totally, that when a person can experience the Ratzi V'Shuv of Yiddishkeit, and the whole Yiddishkeit revolves around this Ratzi V'Shuv. The idea of having this tremendous love for Hashem, but then realizing, time to get back to work, because what Hashem wants from me is to make a world into Dir B'Tachtainim. So it's amazing how we're learning this Perek on the week of the Misa of Nadav and Avihu, the week of Parah Aduma, which are the two areas in Chassidus where we talk about Ratzi V'Shuv. And Emir Hashem, we'll continue on this a little next week, and then we'll move on to Perek Nalav.
How old the war?